Hello everyone, I'm Wolfgang Gray. I hope you're doing well today. Welcome to Gray's Horizons. Your labor wasn't the first thing they collateralized. It started with your wages, then your home, then your time. Now it's your breath, your water, your attention, your life itself. What used to be sacred, work, food, family, land, is now a yield stream for someone else's balance sheet. You are no longer just a participant in the economy. You are the collateral. Before the Federal Reserve, before the income tax, before everything had a barcode, you worked, you kept what you earned. Your land was yours. Your food came from soil you knew. Your water didn't need a futures contract. Your breath wasn't priced in carbon. There were no payroll deductions for wars you didn't start, no tax levies for bonds you never voted for, no social credit scores baked into every swipe and keystroke. But once labor became taxable, the shift began. Labor became the first yield, and the system learned it could extract continuously. In 1913, two things changed everything: the Federal Reserve Act, the 16th Amendment, income tax. These weren't just policy moves. They were structural shifts in human life. Now your labor could be taxed before you ever touched it. Every hour you worked became a stream of revenue for someone else. You weren't just earning, you were producing yield. And once the system figured out how to package labor as collateral, it didn't stop there. Employers became tax collectors. Payroll deductions became normalized. Retirement funds became debt markets. You weren't just working for a paycheck, you were underwriting an empire. The same labor that built the country now backs the bonds that finance its decline. Your paycheck isn't freedom, it's the first harvest. Once labor was financialized, the system didn't stop, it just looked around and asked, what else can we turn into a yield? Nothing is too sacred to be collateral. When everything is collateralized, life becomes transactional. You begin to measure your worth, not in meaning, but in output. You don't rest to restore, you rest to optimize. You don't create to express, you create to monetize. The result? Anxiety becomes the baseline. Burnout becomes inevitable. And identity fractures into avatars designed for algorithmic approval. Friendships become networking. Purpose becomes productivity. Spirituality becomes a branding strategy. Every moment feels scored. Every silence feels wasted. Every thought feels marketable. It's not just your work being monetized. It's your stillness, your attention, your boredom, your dreams. You're not exhausted because you're broken. You're exhausted because the system is working and you're its fuel. This is what happens when meaning is replaced with yield. When relationships are filtered through metrics. When time is stolen in microtransactions of monetized distraction. Even healing becomes content. Even struggle becomes performance. You're encouraged to share, brand, narrate, but not to feel, not to rest, not to reclaim. But you are not a product. You are not an asset class. You are not someone's passive income stream. You're a human being, and that still matters. You were not born to be optimized. You were born to be whole. Once upon a time, the commons meant something: a shared well, a field, a public square, a mutual trust. Today, those spaces are gone or fenced off, monetized, surveilled. The library has been replaced by the algorithm. The park has been replaced by the gated resort. The neighborhood watch has been replaced by predictive policing. Even your digital commons, the internet, has been enclosed, moderated, monetized, manipulated. What was once free, we now rent back in subscriptions and licenses, in compliance agreements we never read. You used to walk into the commons, now you log in and accept the terms of service. We used to gather, now we're segmented, tracked, sorted, scored. We used to help each other, now we fill out forms, submit tickets, or subscribe to empathy behind a paywall. Public discourse used to happen in town halls, now it's throttled by algorithms. Public trust used to be built on reciprocity, now it's replaced by verification badges. When the commons were stolen, so was our sense of collective stewardship. We no longer protect each other, we compete for reach, ratings, and relevance. Even the sky isn't common anymore. It's a delivery route. Even silence isn't safe. It's content that hasn't been uploaded yet. The commons weren't lost. They were collateralized, and once they became collateral, they were traded, sold, and repackaged. Until what's left is artificial community engineered for engagement, not connection. We're no longer neighbors, we're content streams, running parallel, optimized for advertising yield. But the human need to belong hasn't gone away. It's just being rented back to you, one transaction at a time. We can't rewind the clock. We won't return to barter systems, unplug the grid, or tear down the towers. But we can remember what made life feel real and build from there. You don't have to escape to the 1800s. You just have to exit the extractive logic. Reclaiming the future doesn't mean going backward. It means going inward and then building outward. Start with what you control. Your time, your energy, your attention, your choices. You don't need permission to stop being mind. You need a direction and the will to act on it. Look at what's worked for generations. Local trust economies where people show up for each other. Productive land that yields food, not just tax obligations. Cooperative living over contractual compliance. Time-rich lives over hustle-driven loops. This isn't fantasy, it's design. A new operating system routed in sovereignty, not optimization. And this is exactly what we've been exploring here on Gray's Horizons. Every time we talk about Bitcoin, we're talking about opting out of monetary manipulation. Holding value without trusting the debt machine. Every time we talk about silver or gold, we're talking about assets that don't require permission. No middleman, no counterparty risk. When we push side hustles or skill stacking, we're talking about resilience, becoming anti-fragile in a system designed to make you dependent. When we talk about leveraging AI, we're talking about using the same tool they're training to replace you, but turning it around to create margin, speed, leverage. Everything we've built here is part of the same philosophy. Don't let the future happen to you. Build the one that frees you. No one is coming to uncollateralize your life, but you can stop being the product, because what you reclaim, your time, your skills, your wealth, becomes your runway. And that's what freedom looks like in a world this entangled. Because the escape isn't in nostalgia, it's in recreation. And the blueprint is already inside you. While you're being told to tighten your belt, they're buying land. While you're being nudged into UBI and digital coupons, they're buying productive farms, energy grids, and controlling water rights. They're not preparing to live like you. They're preparing to own to own the systems you depend on. They're buying agricultural land, not for farming, but for control. Because if they control the land, they control food, zoning, and resource flows. Energy infrastructure, not to power homes, but to dictate supply and scarcity. Rolling blackouts for you, guaranteed redundancy for them. Water rights, not to preserve the commons, but to gate access and speculate on thirst. Behavioral data, not to understand people, but to predict and influence mass behavior at scale. They're not just buying assets, they're buying leverage. Everything that sustains life is being converted into a metered service. They don't plan to live off the land. They plan to own the land you will live off. They're tokenizing the future, turning carbon credits into hedgeable assets. Tokenizing homes, parcels, and supply chains into programmable contracts. Rolling real infrastructure into asset-backed securities, NFTs, or stablecoin instruments. They'll let you keep the illusion of choice as long as the rails are privately owned and your access can be revoked with a click. Meanwhile, they're using offshore trusts, multinational shell games, and foundation overlays to avoid taxation. Buying art, wine, gold, land, IP, and farmland to store value outside Fiat. Using AI to do in seconds what would take teams of analysts weeks, all while warning you that automation is a threat to your job. They buy silence. They rent legislation. They lease the illusion of normalcy to keep you docile just a little longer. They don't fear collapse. They fear accountability. They're not trying to escape the system. They're trying to privatize it and run it without resistance. But the good news, you don't need to be them to beat them. You just need to stop playing by their assumptions. You don't need billions, you don't need lobbyists, you don't need to tokenize the world to reclaim your corner of it. You just need to stop playing their game by default. You don't win by voting harder. No. You win by building parallel systems that serve your life, not theirs. You take your income off-grid, side hustles, freelance, P2P commerce, stack sovereign skills, repair, barter, tech, teaching, food, leadership, acquire things that serve you, land, tools, knowledge, privacy, stamina. Learn to use AI not as a crutch, but as an accelerant. Build value you can carry with you, no matter where the system goes. Grow food, fix things, teach someone, share knowledge in private, trade in person, store energy in your body, not just in batteries. They rely on your distraction, your submission, your disbelief. They want you watching, scrolling, waiting, not learning, not building, not connecting, not escaping. But every tool they use to control you, you can use to build. AI isn't just a threat, it's a lever. Train it to serve you. Money isn't just debt, it's stored time if you own the asset. Attention isn't just monetizable, it's sacred, direct, it's like fire. Your digital life should serve your physical one. Your work should compound your freedom, not just your bills. Your time should be building a world no one can cancel. What you can do is exit the yield farm. Start with one corner of your life. Replace one subscription with a relationship. Replace one distraction with a discipline. Replace one complaint with a project. No one is coming to reclaim your sovereignty for you. But every action you take that doesn't require permission is a blueprint for freedom. Stop letting them monetize your life. Stop being the fuel. Start becoming the architect. Because the moment you say, not for sale, is the moment you stop being collateral. You were born into a system designed to convert everything into yield. Your work, your land, your water, your time. You were taught that your value came from your output, that your freedom came from your purchasing power, that your future came from trusting systems you didn't design and can't opt out of. But the truth is, you're not here to be harvested, you're here to build, to connect, to remember what was real, and reclaim what still can be. You are not the yield, you are the seed. And what you plant now determines what survives the collapse. Because the world doesn't need more products. It needs more people who refuse to be priced. It needs people who remember how to mend. People who can grow food, build shelter, speak truth. People who know that community is not a subscription and freedom is not a brand. You don't have to escape the system entirely. You just have to build where it can't follow. Start where you are, use what you have, learn what you need, build what comes next. If this video struck a nerve, you're not alone. Share it, subscribe, join the conversation, because every time someone says, no more, the algorithm loses traction. Every time someone remembers their worth, the yield machine slips. Every time someone builds outside the loop, something human survives. And that's what we're doing here. Stay sharp, stay sovereign, and I'll see you in the next one.